the church that we were attending whenever I was born, and she was an accountant there. And so since she worked there, I was there all the time, like 4 or 5 days a week at minimum. And so my dad is some type of engineer. I don't exactly know what he does because I've only been to his work like twice in my life, but he does something kind of boring, honestly. But since it's like a lot about like technology and stuff, we were always doing like projects up at our old church, and I got really used to just being at the church constantly. It was like a second home to me. And so as I was there more and more, I heard the message of the gospel just repetitively over and over and over. And so I'm sure a lot of us have that same story about how we had heard the gospel a million times, and then we got saved at a young age. That was my story. And so, like, whenever I was 8, I prayed a prayer, and I got baptized then, and I really didn't take my faith that seriously then. And it took a while for me to, like, actually start taking my faith seriously and know what that really meant. And so, as I got older, I started struggling with some things that I still struggle with today, some addictions that are still in my life, and I started hanging out with the wrong people. I started just not making the best choices, and that really took an impact on me, and I didn't have like a relationship with God or a real relationship with anybody godly that I could rely on during that time. And so, my family, there was like some struggles with that church that we were at. And so we started looking for a new church, and we visited all around Tulsa, like literally like probably like 15 churches. And we landed at Evergreen. And I didn't want to go to Evergreen. I wanted to go to a different church because they had a basketball court. That should show you how far off I really was, because I really didn't care that much about church. I was like, oh yeah, I get to see my friends, but it really didn't have an impact on me. And so as I got into Evergreen, whenever I first got there, I was in the ramp program, and it was a great program. I started getting poured into by Ethan Sowersby. He's a great guy, and that's kind of where things all started for me. I remember like being in his small group multiple times. Like, he talked a lot, and it was all like good conversations and stuff. And so I was like 11 or 12, and there were like kids like playing wall ball outside, and I was like, dude, why are we taking so long? I want to go play wall ball. And so like I really wasn't understanding like the point of church or like why I was there. And so as time went by, being in a small group, I started, taking things more seriously, started growing and understanding more and more, like, what a real relationship with the Lord looked like why I needed one. And so I wasn't really taking any actions into what's the word I'm looking for? Into forming a relationship with the Lord. And so as I got older, I moved into the youth group, and I was still making bad decisions, hanging out with the wrong people. And then I kind of like transitioned friend groups, and I found some real friends that I can depend on. And as I did that, I just started growing. It wasn't really anything that I like could control. It was just something that happened. It was not something that I noticed for a few weeks, honestly. And I noticed myself starting to sing during worship songs. I started noticing myself just making better decisions and thinking before I did certain things. And so I just started noticing myself growing. And so whenever I first got here in the youth, it was originally just AJ as our youth pastor. Then we got Kemper, and then AJ left, and we got Cheetah. And so originally AJ was like a person that I really looked up to. Don't get me wrong, I still look up to him a lot. Just he was some guy that I could just really look up to. I never really had like a deep conversation with him until I got a little bit older, but like I saw him and I was like, I really like him. I want to, be godly like him. I want to live a good life like him. And so I just started like getting poured into by some people, and all I can think is Evergreen and God. And so, so I have a verse that I'm going to share with you guys. It's Hebrews 10:24 through 25 if you have your Bibles. And so, the reason I'm sharing this is because I started noticing like how important having a godly community really is. And here at Evergreen, we have such a godly community. Like, it's a huge church, if you haven't noticed. There's, 1,800 members, and yet there's such a community and, brother and sisterhood here. And verse 20, Hebrews 10:24 through 25 says, "And let us consider how to stir up one another to love and good works, not neglecting to meet each other, as is the habit of some, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day drawing near." So there's a few things that I want to point out in this passage. First thing is that we need to encourage each other to do good things, to love one another, and to do the right things. And so you really can't do life on your own if you're trying to live a godly life. You need to have people pouring into you. You need to be pouring into others. And so, it's really hard with peer pressure. There's always going to be negative influences in your life. I can guarantee you that. But if you have positive influences, those positive influences will outweigh the negative ones if you're letting them. And so, if you have people that are pouring into you, if you have people that are making the right decisions, that are doing the right things constantly and trying to follow the Lord, then that will eventually, hopefully, result in you doing the same thing. But that's a choice that you have to make on your own. That's a choice for you have to say for yourself, hey, I'm going to follow God. I'm going to, do the right thing. And so I really wasn't doing that. I had a godly community around me, and I was starting to go in that direction, but I really wasn't there yet. And so the second thing that I want to point out is not neglect. Verse 25 says, not neglecting to meet each other, as is the habit of some, and encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day drawing near. So today during Big Church, Pastor Gabber was talking about, and now kind of just like the church, I honestly don't remember what exactly he was talking about, but he said something about how there was this one pastor that, published an article, wrote a book or something along those lines that was encouraging all churches in the area to go virtual and not have people meet in an actual room, but have avatars or whatever, do it all online. And so I heard that and I was like, that's stupid. It literally says in the Bible right here, not neglecting to eat each other, as is the habit of some. And so we see right there how mankind is trying to take away the main thing of church, having community with each other, as we're doing right here. And so we just see how wicked humanity really is and how they're trying to take away the things that God had planned for us, the things that God had appointed before time. And community is one of the biggest points in church. It's one of the main things that we do here at Evergreen. And so as I got more and more plugged into Evergreen, I started seeing the community I'm sorry, I can't talk today. The community that we have. And so as I said, I got more plugged into Evergreen. And I've been plugged into Evergreen for a while. It's been a year and a half since I really, started taking Evergreen seriously, started having people pour into me, pouring into people younger than me. And so I got presented with an opportunity, 3 or 4 months ago to serve at Sequoia Hills. If you don't know, Sequoia Hills is the church. I don't know where. I don't know roads. But it's somewhere here in North Tulsa, somewhere in that area. It's this small church that used to be really big, and over time, since COVID and things like that, it really went downhill. Not the teachings or anything, just things went really downhill. They lost over 200 members in just a short amount of time. It was not good. But I went there for one time, And I went with a group of me, Travago, Ryan, Elsie Decker. I don't remember anybody else that went, but if you did, good job. So basically, what we did was we went on stage and helped out with the sermon illustration. We literally just held pieces of paper in a row, and the people there were so grateful. All the people there are like above 50, so it was an experience, being there for the first time, like going from Evergreen to this church, because like Evergreen has so many young people like us, and then just going from average age of probably like 30 or something here at Evergreen to that. And so that was the big transition, just seeing like the wisdom that they have and kind of just the hunger that they have for people to be there. And like they were just so grateful. Like all we did was hold pieces of paper, and I got thanked like 20 times by like multiple different people, and it really caught me off guard. And so at that church at Sequoia Hills, they have a community there. They don't have many people, which makes it a little bit easier to have a community, I guess, because everybody knows each other, and you could have a strong relationship and friendship with pretty much everybody there. And although we do have a lot of people here at Evergreen, we still see that there are a lot of people that are stirring each other up to love each other and do good works, and they are not neglecting to meet each other. Like there are people, pretty much everybody here is just excited to be with each other and to just spend time with each other in God's house. And as I got more plugged into Evergreen, I started just loving that about Evergreen, and it was incredible. And so Evergreen has really become like a home to me. And it wasn't a place that I'm at 4 or 5 times a week, hearing the gospel constantly. It was a place that I hear God's message very frequently, but at the same time, it was like each time it was just impactful to me. At my old church, it was kind of just like, oh yeah, the gospel, cool. But now it's like I have a hunger for it. And so about February, not last February, but February of 2022, I went to the weekend for the first time with our youth group, and that was incredible. It was hosted here at Evergreen in the sanctuary, the worship center down there, and it was really cool. They had like the Rivers doing worship. If you don't know them, they were a band, but they split up, and they were just incredible. Like the worship was awesome. The teaching was awesome, and it was really fun. But like also it was really monumental in my life, because I remember that was the first time that I raised my hands in worship, and that resulted in me truly worshiping like over and over and over and not being ashamed of it. I saw people doing that in my life, and I was kind of like, that's a little weird. But then I was like, why not? I love God, so why not worship him? And so I went to several church events in the past, and one of them was a retreat at a church called The Assembly. It's not far from here, but my friend Dakota goes there, and he invited me to go to like a spring retreat there, March of 2022, and it was really good. They had like small groups, breakout sessions, a bunch of sermons, and it was just incredible. And there wasn't really any specific thing that impacted me that much that I can remember clearly, but like just the whole week it was incredible. And that's really when I started growing. That's when I started making like strong decisions for the Lord. That's whenever I consider myself to start following him. And so that summer, I went to Falls Creek for the first time, and I came to Falls Creek hearing that it was like the most fun camp ever, and it was. And so I really didn't expect God to do anything. I was like, if God does something cool, then that's awesome. But like I didn't really, expect God to move the way he did. And so he absolutely changed my life that week. So I don't know if a ton of y'all know this. I'm sure plenty of y'all do, but I'm called to ministry, and it's vocational ministry. Yeah. And so that's where I was called to ministry. And that week, I surrendered to a call, and my life has never been the same since. I don't remember the night, like the circumstances, but I just remember staying back afterwards. I was kind of scared to go down to the altar that night because I was kind of like, what does everybody think? But then afterwards, I was like, I don't even care, bro. I'm just going to go do it. So I talked to Caleb Decker, and I didn't know Caleb well at all back then. I don't think I'd ever even said a word to him. And so we talked for 10 or 15 minutes, and I came back to the cabin. Everybody's like, Nathan, what happened? What decision did you make? And I was like, well, I'm called to ministry. And everybody loved that, and that really just had an impact on my life. And I've never seen my life change like that, in just one night. It was absolutely crazy. And so I'm still feeling that call to ministry constantly, and that's pretty much what keeps me going a lot of the time. I might have a really bad day, or I might, be tempted to yell at someone at school. Might be tempted to respond to a certain situation in one way, but then I think, how is this going to impact my future, and how, the paths I take in the future? And so I've seen my life completely change because of that. And so I went to Super Summer also that year, and I was really taught how to be a leader. And I learned more about my call to ministry there, more of what it means, what that looks like. And that's where I really started making godly friendships. Me and Isaac connected at Super Summer. We've been dormed together for the past 2 years, and he's my best friend. And I really made a lot of friendships there. Talked to a lot of kids that I still, I met a lot of kids that I still talk to today from my Red School year and my family group. And I'm always excited to go back. And Super Summer has had such an impact on my life. And if you haven't gone, you need to go. But first, pray about it. And so after the summer was over, I returned back to school, and I was a completely different person. I changed what friend group I was hanging out with, and I was starting to, just be a light to others around me. And, the school year was filled with highs and lows in my relationship with the Lord. I woke up really early to read my Bible, and, that's a good thing, but I was absolutely dead the whole year. And, I had no motivation, and my grades were, they were good, don't get me wrong, but, my parents are really strict about grades, and they weren't very happy with that. So I need a little more rest, so take note of that. But, the school year was full of highs and lows, but I was still seeking to glorify the Lord and pursuing my call to ministry. And so fast forward to this summer. I went to Falls Creek, and for the past little while, I was feeling kind of pressured by. Am I still on? Yeah, I'm still on. My bad. But I was feeling kind of tugged by the Lord to get baptized, and I was like, why? I got baptized whenever I was 8. I even have a picture in my room to prove it. And so, but I was kind of just feeling pressured, and I don't really know why, and I didn't really question it. I was like, I'm good, God. I don't need it. And so, whenever I went to Falls Creek, I was sitting there. I remember it was Tuesday morning during tab, morning tab. And morning tab, it really doesn't have a great reputation of being super impactful in people's lives. It's everybody's always super drowsy, and they're just like, dude, the coffee shop isn't even open yet, so we're not even awake. And so, nothing big really happens during morning tab, if I'm being honest. But something big did happen in my life. One of the guys, he was talking, I don't remember who it was, but he was just talking, and he was like, they're talking about baptism and what it really means. And so, um, I had that kind of in the back of my mind the whole time. And then he said something along the lines of like, baptism is something that you do after you start following the Lord truly. And then I was like, my gosh, what am I doing? I need to get baptized. And so I went back to the cabin and I was like, Cheeto, I need to get baptized. And he was really excited, but he talked to me about it. And I was really hyped for it because I had, seen what it really was. I realized I just got dunked in water, and I really didn't get baptized for real. And Cheeto told me that he did the same thing whenever he was younger, and that's something that a lot of people do. So it's not uncommon. But I talked to my parents about it, and they were kind of like, I'm not sure, but then they were just like, if this is something that you feel called to do, then do it. So I was like, all right, cool. So I got baptized Friday. That's also the day that I did a Devo at Falls Creek, and it was a great day. That's all I'm gonna say. And so that really had an impact on my life. That gives me a lot of encouragement. And like whenever I'm having a rough day, I just look back at that picture, and it just gives me encouragement to just keep going and to follow God. So that was a really high time in my life where I could clearly feel God's hand on my life. Then not last September, but a couple months ago, September, I was really having a dry season with the Lord, and things just got really tough, and I was going through a lot, and I was trying to stay consistent with my faith, but it was just really hard. I was still going to church. I was still plugged in here. I was being discipled by Cheeto, and just everything from the outside looked just dandy, but on the inside, nothing was going right. It seemed like, and so I was staying consistent with my Bible reading, but I really just didn't hear anything from the Lord, and I started considering just like walking away from the faith, and I remember just sitting down in the sanctuary during service, and I was like, am I going to keep going? Can I keep doing this? And I talked to Isaac about it, and he sent me dude, it was the longest text I've ever gotten. It was so long. And it took me about 5 minutes to read probably. And it was a lot packed in one text message. And he was like, dude, you can't do this. You've invested your life in this, and you just can't do this. Like, your family is a Christian family. You'll be like rejecting your whole family, also rejecting God. And I knew that God was real. I was like, do I want to keep following him? Which it was a stupid question to ask myself, because of course I want to follow him. Of course I need to follow him. But it was just like, do I have the fuel to keep doing this? And so Isaac shared a verse with me. If you have your Bibles, hopefully you do, Matthew 13, 1 through 9. And it's the parable of the soil, like the good soil, and about how all the seeds were planted there. The parable of the sower. That same day, Jesus went out of the house and sat beside the sea, and the great crowds gathered about him, so that he got into a boat and sat down, and the whole crowd stood on the beach. And he told them many things in parables, saying, a sower went out to sow, and as he sowed, some seeds fell along the path, and the birds came and devoured them. Other seeds fell on rocky ground, where they did not have much soil, and immediately they sprang up, since there was no depth of soil. But when the sun rose, they were scorched, and since they had no root, they withered away. Other seeds fell along thorns, and thorns grew up and choked them. Other seeds fell on good soil and produced grain, some 100-fold, some 60, some 30. He who has ears, let him hear. So that is a weird parable. There's plenty of those. But basically what he's trying to say, what Jesus is saying, is that there's a lot of people that have heard the message of the gospel. Some reject it. Those are the people that, those are the people that just reject the soil. And, not the soil, the seed of the gospel. And they don't want they don't want anything in their life. And so I know there's a lot of people, everybody knows someone that's like that. Um, and then there's the people who did receive the gospel but didn't have a foundation in Christ, and the seeds just popped back up and got scorched by the sun. And then there are the seeds that fell on good soil, and the seeds grew, and it says other seeds fell on good soil and produced grain, some 100-fold, some 60, some 30. And so Isaac was like, you, right now you're kind of on the soil that just sprang up. You are, you did have a foundation on Christ, but right now the seeds are just springing back up. You're not letting the message of the gospel sink in. You're not, really relying on Christ. And so I kind of had to check myself, and I was like, all right, am I actually doing these things? Am I actually being intentional with my quiet times? Am I consistently being poured into by someone, and am I pouring into other people? And so as I thought about that more and more, it took me about, I say, like 2 or 3 days to come to a conclusion about what I was going to do. And I was like, all right, I'm going to follow God. And so I was like, I can't, because I can't just walk away from God, because I've seen the impact he's had on my life. And that was just the enemy giving me this rough time, this thought plotted in my head. And, it's been a couple months since that happened, and I see my life changed as a result of that, just in little ways, in big ways, in every little way. I think about those moments every day where I was just, at the very bottom, and I was like, dude, I don't know if I can keep doing this. But now I know that I have my foundation set on Christ, and that I'm letting his word sink into me each day. And I hope that everyone in here lets that sink into them each day. I hope that my testimony inspired you guys, and that God will keep speaking to you guys, and that you would just spend time with him each day and letting him speak to you. All right, I'm going to pray, and then we can go to our groups. Dear Heavenly Father, I just thank you that we all got to hear my testimony today. I just pray that you just keep moving in these people's lives, God. I pray that you prepare them for the week, whatever challenges will come, the good and the bad. I just pray that you just be with them through them all. And I just pray that they would just make time for you to be in your word, and that you would just keep them safe as they drive home, and keep them safe throughout the week. Amen.